This video will teach you how to select words for your vocabulary journal from your independent reading. We're basically using the Goldilocks approach to vocabulary. We're looking for just right words, and those would be high utility two-tier words. Fancy language, I know. But tier 1 words are the everyday words that you already know. You probably haven't circled those. No need to learn them. And tier 3 words are the words that are really specific to a particular academic subject. They're the words you might learn in science class, like photosynthesis, or in math class, like bisect or linear. The tier 2 words are high frequency words, meaning they occur a lot, and they tend to be words that are in written language and not speech. Sometimes they're big words like SAT words, and lots of times they're words from Greek and Latin roots. And we'll be studying Greek and Latin roots more this year, and you'll start to get to know them, but those are great words to learn. So, how do you identify the words for your journal? First, as you read, circle the words you don't know. You should include words that you couldn't use in a sentence, even if you understand them from the context clues or because they're defined in the text. Just because you circle a word doesn't mean it has to go in your journal, but it's good to have a lot of words to choose from. I'm going to model how to do this selection process with the text we'll read later in this unit called The Drummer Boy of Shiloh. You should have a copy of this text in front of you. I'm going to read it aloud, and while I do, please circle any vocabulary words that you don't know. This is a story about a 14-year-old boy who's enlisted in the Army during the Civil War, and he's a drummer boy. Drummer boys are the ones who sort of stirred the troops to action and provided communication across a battlefield. And it's the night before they anticipate a big battle, and he's having trouble falling asleep because he's worried and nervous. The Drummer Boy of Shiloh by Ray Bradbury. In the April night, more than once blossoms fell from the orchard trees and lit with rustling taps on the drum skin. At midnight, a peach stone left miraculously on a branch through winter, flicked by a bird, fell swift and unseen, struck once like a panic, which jerked the boy upright. In silence, he listened to his own heart ruffle away, at last gone from his ears and back in his chest again. After that, he turned the drum on its side, where its great lunar face peered at him whenever he opened his eyes. His face, alert or at rest, was solemn. It was indeed a solemn time and a solemn night for a boy just turned 14 in the peach field near the Owl Creek, not far from the church at Shiloh. 31, 32, 33. Unable to see, he stopped counting. Beyond the 33 familiar shadows, 40,000 men, exhausted by nervous expectation, unable to sleep, for romantic dreams of battles yet unfought, lay crazily askew in their uniforms. A mile yet farther on, another army was strewn helter-skelter, turning slow, basting themselves with the thought of what they would do when the time came. A leap, a yell, a blind plunge their strategy, raw youth their protection and benediction. Now and again the boy heard a vast wind come up that gently stirred the air, but he knew what it was, the army here, the army there, whispering to itself in the dark. Some men talking to others, others murmuring to themselves, and all so quiet it was like a natural element arisen from south or north with the motion of the earth toward dawn. Okay. If you need to pause the video for a minute and go back and circle some words, go ahead and do that. And when you're ready, resume. So I've circled 8 words on this first page of a 4-page story, and you need 5 words per week. You don't have to look up every single word you don't know. And so we need to decide which are the most important words for you to learn, and what are you going to actually enter in your vocabulary journal and make words that you're going to study all year long. I have several criteria for this, and so I'm going to go through those next with these words. The first criteria is that you should pick words that you need to know to understand the text. I'm looking at the word solemn in the middle of the page, and I see that it's used 3 times in the same paragraph. It also says his face, alert or at rest, was solemn. If I don't know the meaning of the word solemn, I really don't have a good picture of what's going on with his face. And then it says it was indeed a solemn time and a solemn night for a boy just turned 14. I don't have a lot of context clues here, so if I don't know the word solemn, I think it's important to look it up. I notice that the word solemn is defined over here on the side of the text. It means deeply serious. And now that I know that, when I reread, it makes a lot more sense. His face, alert or at rest, was deeply serious. Indeed, it was a deeply serious time and a deeply serious night for a boy just turned 14. Okay, that's an important word. And it's nice, it's defined right here. So I don't even have to look it up. And that leads us to our second criteria, which is a word might be a good word to choose for your vocabulary journal if it's identified in the text you're reading as a vocabulary word. For example, by putting it in bold font or by having a footnote where it defines it down here. So bold are defined on the side, footnotes are at the foot of the page. Now, one of those words at the bottom of the page, well, actually both of them, lunar and benediction, turn out to be words that meet our third criteria as well. That third criteria is that the word is made with Greek or Latin roots and affixes, or that's a word for prefixes and suffixes together. You might know the word lunar is related to the word moon, because you know in Spanish or French that the word for moon is lunis or loon. And so lunar means of or relating to the moon. You also might know the word benediction, because you might recognize benefit. The bene part means good or well. Something that's a benefit is something good for you. And you might also see the word diction in there, which means to say something. So a benediction is saying something good. In this case, it more specifically means a blessing. You will begin to recognize Greek and Latin roots as we start to study them, but you also may recognize these words because they begin with common prefixes, or you'll start to recognize the common Latin suffixes like ate for verbs and tion, ness, ship, ism, and we'll start to make a list of those, and if you see words like that, they're probably good vocabulary words. And the fourth criteria is if you've seen it before, but you still don't know it. You're like, wait, I've seen that word before. Or maybe you've even written it down on your possible pages. If you've seen it before and you still don't know it, it's probably a high utility word, a useful word, and one that you should add to your vocabulary journal. The last thing is you still need more time, more study time with the word. You know, I also looked up the word Shiloh in our story, and it turns out Shiloh is a place where there was a big Civil War battle. You know, now that I know that, I don't think I need to really study that anymore. I'd like you to open your notebook to your vocabulary section and right on the first page there, write down these 5 factors so that you remember when you're entering words. The next thing I want you to do is on the next page, I want you to write at the top possible words. And I just want you to use that page to keep a list of words that you might use, and then you'll decide from that list which words you're going to do entries for. So here's some criteria. Go find words and let's start learning some vocab.